Okay, I am here with Miss Jocelyn. I know that a coach or teacher is never supposed to have favorites, but I will say that Jocelyn has been one of my favorites. It's just been an absolute joy working with her, and we had some times where she was calling me, asking me, "Is this thing really gonna work? Am I really gonna find a business? Am I really gonna close on something?" So she definitely made me work, but we had a lot of fun. So Jocelyn, why don't you tell everybody? A lot of folks that'll be watching this, some people will already be current clients, just kind of making it through what you've gone through. Other folks are considering the program, but just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I actually have come from the corporate world. I've been a consultant as well as a employee of Fortune 500 companies and a small startup for a stint, and have done it, I guess, just about 12 years or so. Recently had my second child and my last child and decided that it was time to break free from the corporate world and become my own boss and get out of the rat race and looking at the opportunity to either do a startup, which I've had a couple of failed ventures in, or go and purchase a business with incoming revenue and steady revenue. That seemed to be the way to make the break from the corporate world and move forward. So I fortunately found ACE, and the rest is history.
Very cool, very cool. So, what were some of the challenges that you faced before we started working together? What do you feel
Well,
like was your biggest challenge?
this is a whole new world for me. I mean, I couldn't even figure out if this was the right move, let alone if we were going to be able to find deals that were going to allow me to break free from the corporate world and that. So just really the unknown
Yeah,
of going into a process that I didn't know anything about. And, you have a vision, but the reality is always different from your vision. And also timing was a big thing for me because I had a certain amount of time that had taken extended leave for maternity. And I had this bogey at the end of the summer that said, okay, either you're gonna be there or you're going back to work. So
yeah.
a little bit of pressure on that side, while I still had a newborn and a 3-year-old in the house. So just really the unknown that I think was the biggest challenge. But
Yeah,
that's really the benefit that I saw in working with you and your program, because it started with the education and the process, which I could see that there was a path, and here's step one, here's step two. I think we may have skipped step three and went straight to step four, but that
yeah,
was just
yeah.
the deal presented itself, and we had to move pretty quickly as things continued to change, and we were in the midst of things. So, but just looking at the very beginning is that you clearly had done this how many times before. You knew exactly what the process was going to be, where the pitfalls could go, and where the past may take you. So that was the comforting part for me coming into the program and committing to it.
All right. So, I'm always curious. So, obviously coming in, you had your goals. I'd love to talk about what you told what you told me was your goal and time frame and all of that, and but also how the process may have been different. Like what surprise? There are people that are obviously coming into this and it's the unknown. So,
Right.
how this was a little bit different from what you thought it might have been.
I mean, I guess it was closer to a real estate deal than than I thought it would be, right? So having only done real estate transactions before, I think if I would have kind of compare the process with real estate, that would have grounded me a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
you go out and you look at a bunch of different houses, or, in our case, a bunch of different business deals. And you do the inspection. Sometimes you know a little bit of information. Sometimes you have to go on good faith. And then, then you get to the process where, okay, it's time to put down money, and you find out a little bit more, and then, you close on the deal. And so I think, just kind of relating that to, another deal that I may have done in the past.
Yeah.
It really followed that kind of general perspective. And, when I talk to other people about it, that's now how I say it. It's kind of like when you bought your house.
Yeah. It's something that everybody, and that's what I tell people. It's like, a lot of people go about it like they're purchasing a house, and it's the biggest thing that most people, those two things are the biggest things that a lot of people will time money into. The biggest difference is, it's a little easier to see what's going on in the house compared to seeing what's going on in the business. Tell me a little bit about just, in addition, obviously we go through due diligence and all of that, but what were some of the things that you learned that you felt like kind of contributed to you finding and figuring out the right deal?
The right deal. So I think your first step in the process of, really taking the time out to envision what the ideal deal would be. Because before I came into the program, I was kind of poking around, right? Oh, this looks interesting. The numbers look good. This looks interesting, that kind of stuff. But then we really, you really forced me to narrow it down and to be specific. And it was tempting to go and look at other types of deals. But because I had, my rules generated, and they were rules that I was comfortable with. I mean, we talked initially about offline and online and the benefits of both, and the, ability to finance one versus the other and that kind of stuff. When I really got down to it, in my heart, I knew I didn't want to do offline, even though it was going to probably cost more and you have different financing options and things like that I was going to have to take a bigger risk on it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But really getting that, I could have been tempted by a good deal, right?
Yeah.
In an online deal just because it was around the corner or whatever it may be. But, really setting those roles was key for me in evaluating deals. And then, just looking and having those conversations. I mean, we didn't look at a ton of deals, but a couple that we looked at was like, okay, I'm not gonna, one said they had revenue and they didn't have any revenue, so we didn't waste any more time.
You get into them and realize, okay, this is not what I want.
Exactly. So some of them were quick to go off, but I really felt like the ability that you had to, even if you saw that a deal wasn't going to be good, okay, Jocelyn, I'll have a call. And, we had the call. I learned from that so that I knew what questions to ask on the next one.
Yeah. And that's usually something that I have to encourage people to do, because two things happen on those calls. One is, obviously, you're figuring out this deal isn't for yourself. It's one thing for me to tell you, okay, this isn't the right deal. It's another for you to realize, okay, let's get this information now. Let's compare it to the rules. Does this match? Okay, no. But the other thing is you get your skill level so that, a lot of times the people don't talk to a business owner until they find that perfect listing, and that's their first time ever talking to somebody. And so that gets you really comfortable. So by the time we find that right deal, it's like, hey, I know this whole game, know how to talk, how to negotiate, and it's an easier deal. Very cool.
No, because it's different from being coached, because we, before we had the first conversation, right? I mean, I felt, Ace prepared me for everything. He walked me through the questions, how we were going to do it. I was, sitting pretty, and then we had the call, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Like, what's my perspective on this? And
exactly.
by a couple down the road, it was, I definitely was in that comfort level and wouldn't trade that experience for everything, because it's different. I mean, I think the relationship that, you emphasized at different points in the purchasing process, are you have to have the buyer to like you, but do you also need to have a good deal, and you need to get the information. And it was interesting because the two deals that we did, we actually didn't have the conversation until, close to closing or whatever, just because they were, pretty hot deals. But still going through that process was, I think, key to the success of all of this and being able to manage it.
So your goal when you came to me was you wanted to leave your job within, I believe, was it 4 months or
April, May, June, July, August, 5 months.
5 months? And we had those times where you started to get a little nervous, and we weren't going to find the right deal, and I didn't want you to rush into anything. So, did you end up achieving your goal after you joined?
Well, I ended up quitting after 2 months. Closed on my first deal at 3 months, and my second deal at 4 months. And here I am, 2 weeks prior to when I was supposed to go back, and I have generating revenue. And based on our conversation before we started this, have too much to do to manage from a business perspective. It's where to start. So absolutely, I have accomplished my goal. My husband's quit. I've quit. We have a corporation that's running two businesses. We have an LLC that is running a little bit of my husband's business, and here we are. It's been a wild summer. It's been a wild summer.
Well, I will tell you, you brought a lot of fun to my summer. Like I said, you were one of my favorites. I enjoy working with you. Obviously, this isn't where our relationship ends. We're going to be working together to now increase the income that's coming in from those two businesses. But
yeah, you can't get away from me that easily.
I know, and I appreciate you taking time of your new business owner. I mean, not just running one business. You bought two businesses within a couple months. So I appreciate you taking time to share your story with some of the other folks today.
Absolutely, always happy to help. So.
Right.